Hi, I'm Adrian Bowles of Storm Insights. I recently had the opportunity to talk to Ashish Morzaria of SAP at TechEd in Las Vegas. We talked about BI and visualization and a lot of the trends in that area. Here are some of the highlights from our conversation.
Well, we are seeing that business users are becoming much more sophisticated, and because of that, they're starting to do a lot more things outside the traditional systems. The traditional BI systems just simply aren't doing the things that they need them to do, and you find that they jump out into other things like Excel and other random tools. And so what we're looking at how do we empower business users in a better way to be able to let them do the thing they need to do. But at the same time, we need to make sure that it fits within an IT governance model, because they're still working in an enterprise. We still want to use the enterprise sources. We still want to have the data governance. We still want to have the security that they would get using, for example, a traditional BI system. But we still want to enable the business user to do everything that they need to do without hampering them with some IT control. So try and find the balance between the business user's needs and the IT requirements is really the challenge these days, because the traditional BI systems do a great job of the control, but don't empower the business user. And tools like Excel work great for the business user, and we end up with spreadsheets, and these things that sit out all over the place in a very ungoverned way. And that means that we make worse decisions. It means it takes longer to make those decisions, and it turns out that everybody makes a different decision because we don't have all of that data together. And so that's what we're looking at, is how do we bridge the business and the IT in a way that they can both get along and in fact help each other. In the past, it was the business user saying, hey, look, I need this type of information. It was up to IT to figure out how to provide it. And IT provided in the most formal and the most governed way possible, which usually is what restricted the user. So the business user became more sophisticated and the line of business started taking more precedence. Business user can now choose what tool they want to use, and they can download anything they want on their phone or their iPad or their laptop. And they can choose what they want to do, and now they're coming in saying, this is the thing that I want to do, and here's what I want to use. And that becomes a challenge for the IT department, who's responsible for protecting the organization. And so really what it comes down to is how do we empower the business user to do what they want to do with the tool that makes sense for them in that governed way, because it's the business user who's now choosing what tool to use and how to use it, because the business user is deciding what they need to do as opposed to what they want. And so now they're being able to help themselves. And that means they're not asking IT, I need this type of information. They're saying, IT, I need this capability, and I need you to provide it, or I'll figure out how to provide it myself. And in many cases, we find the line of business funds the IT expenditure to buy it. And so in the past, it's been the IT department who's been the purchaser and the decision maker. Now it turns out that IT is the purchaser, but the line of business is the decision maker. That brings an interesting thing for IT, because they actually have the money to buy the solution, but they're not the ones choosing which solution to buy necessarily. They're in a better position to recommend the best solution. And that's where we have to come in and take a look to make sure how do we work for the business user and ensure that the IT department can recommend a solution that works for both. Because that is the sweet spot. That is the thing that hasn't been solved in the past. That is the thing that BI for the last 15 years has been struggling with. But now we've got a decision maker and a purchaser, and they're different, which means we've got two demographics to deal with. They both have to be happy. If they're not happy, then we don't end up with a system that works. And we end up with people going off-road, and we end up with draconian control measures, and we end up with very, very unhappy people doing very many different things. And that's what we need to solve. And that's really what everybody's trying to solve. Well, a business user in the past used to just take the data that they were given, and they basically looked at the data from the enterprise and said that must be the right data. And now the user has access to lots of different types of data. They got Twitter data, Facebook data, sentiment analysis, Excel spreadsheets from other systems. There's more than one system in the enterprise now. And the IT department doesn't even know what all of those things are. And so the business user is now trying to put a bunch of those things together. And they're trying to make sure that it makes sense in their context. Because when IT gives them data, it's in the generic context. It may not make sense for the business user. So the business user is now moving from the generic context of governed data and saying, here's my context, here's my personal information that makes this data better. And I need to put that stuff together. And the business user now sees what that looks like. And with all the things that we've seen out on the internet and the newer applications that are out there, they know what they can do. And it's getting easier and easier for them to do it. So they're no longer content with, here's the official story. They now need to put it in their context so they can do their job better, they can answer their questions in a better way. Yeah, we do see a different expectation from the user than we used to. The IT department used to provide the data in the application to use that data. And typically the application required training, and the IT department provided the training for that. and that application didn't change very often because it didn't need to, because the data didn't change that often. Now, of course, users are used to picking up an application, downloading it from the Apple iStore, or being able to download something off the internet, and they expect to use it immediately. They expect to know how to use it immediately. It must not only be intuitive, not require manual or any training, it must be really responsive. And that's something that IT departments have challenge with, because they're looking at scalability, they're looking at reliability, they're looking at handling hundreds of users or thousands of users. The business user doesn't care. They're used to picking up their phone, pressing a button, and if an application takes longer than 3 seconds to open, it's probably stuck. And when they look at that for BI content, or they look at that for analytics, they expect that same type of thing, because on their phone, everything is an analytic. The data usage on their mobile device is an analytic. The search results that they get and the popularity of those search results is an analytic. And analytics isn't everything. So the expectation from a business user now is that analytics have to be fast. They have to be intuitive. I need to not need any training, and they have to be basically up to date to the second.